Now looking at demographics, first part looks at a developed country versus a developing country. And highly developed countries, examples would be the US, Canada, France, Germany, Sweden, Australia, and Japan. They have low population growth and a TFR, what's TFR stand for? Yeah, total fertility rate of 2.1, or no higher than 2.1. Where you have developing countries, you have moderately developed countries like Mexico, Turkey, Thailand, most of South American countries have a TFR of 2.2. And then less developing countries like Bangladesh, Niger, Ethiopia, Laos, and Cambodia with a TFR, total fertility rate, of 5.9 kids per woman. So if we compare these developing or less developed countries with more developed countries, looking at the growth rate, which one has the highest growth? Yeah, those developed or developing countries, you can look, see they tend to grow much faster and much more than the highly developed countries, which has more of a stable growth rate. If we look at life expectancy, in 1930, you can see down below, anywhere in red is only up to 45, up to with orange is 55, yellow 65, green 75, and then above that, which area had the highest life expectancy? Yeah, look at that, Australia and New Zealand. Alright, and then it's the United States and some of the European countries, but everywhere else it was only up to 45 years old in 1930. Here looking at 1960, as you tend to see life expectancy increase quite a few places across the world. 1990, where do you see the longest life expectancy? Where do you see the lowest life expectancy? So other impacts that human population has had, you can look at extinction rates of birds and mammals. And birds, we're looking here at this solid blue line here, and the mammals here, as both of these tend to increase in the number of individual species going extinct, you can also see a correlation with the human population increasing as well. Relate human population size to each of the following: hunger, natural resources, environment, and economics. So if you look here at green, the resources, and our population is red, as population increase, what tend to happen to our resources? Yeah, they tend to decrease. Reason why you might be seeing some of those gas prices increase or price of gold increase. Alright, as it decrease supply, increase demand. Population increases, food demand increases. Industrial output increases, but tends to have hits a peak and then drops down. And pollution, here's another one. As population increases, so does pollution. Alright, very much correlated with human population size. Increased pollution, decreased size, decreased pollution. We have these different demographic stages that a population will go through: pre-industrial, transitional, industrial, and post-industrial. Here we can see the pre-industrial stage, transitional stage, and industrial and post-industrial. And I know in your practice AP exam there was a question about this. Looking here at the pre-industrial, birth and death rates tend to be equal. But when you get into that transitional stage, birth rates tend to stay the same, but death rates decreases. So what does that do to your population size, which is here in green? Yeah, if you have birth rates stay the same, but fewer people are dying, then you get an increase in population size. And that tends to stay the same way all the way across the transitional stage. But then when you get into the industrial stage, what happens to birth rates? Yeah, they tend to come back down. And that tends to taper off or slow down your population growth. And then last but not least, you have your post-industrial stage, which we have not yet reached. As soon as we hit we bring back down our birth and death rates across the entire world, TFR to about 2.1, then we will see a post-industrial state. to where the population hits its carrying capacity and then tends to come down. There's a great additional film looking at what happens to population growth in a post-industrial stage when you get that negative growth rate. Here, just condensing it, looking here at the pre-industrial, transitional, industrial, and post-industrial, right? Pre-industrial, you have birth and death rates equal, population size tends to stay the same. As soon as you get that decrease in the individuals dying but birth rates stay the same, you get a population increase. Right? And then when the transition or the industrial, your birth rates tend to come down, population tends to taper off, and then once again when you reach your birth and death rates the same with high technology, low birth rates, low death rates, you get once again a stable population. This is pretty cool, looking at fertility rates across the world. And as we increase intensity of red, you can see you have a higher fertility rate. And where is the highest fertility rate on average on what continent? Yeah, once again, Africa. One of the reasons why you have that high population growth and the highest growth population is happening in Africa. It's because death rates and technology is increasing, but fertility rates are still very high in this area. Population pyramids. Alright, population pyramids. When you look at a population pyramid, looking at Mexico and the United States here, you have your females on one side and your males on another, usually represented by a different color. And this is looking at the population at that time. So this is looking at the population at that time. At one time, where do you get your different age distributions? And in Mexico, where is most of the population? Yeah, individuals under around 15 or 19 to, just being born. So you have your highest growth as kids here, and this will show that the population is growing. Because as these guys age, that population will go up. And if they're aging and the fertility rate stays the same, this pyramid's going to become wider and wider. Whereas here, looking at the United States, where's the highest amount of individuals? Yeah, you have them here. Alright, from like 19 to 35 age range. So lower babies. So this is showing that this population is going to stay somewhat stable, because as this increases and goes up, and these individuals age, alright, you might even have, with this, tend to have somewhat of a decrease. Here we can see rapid growing like Guatemala, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia. This is a common look of a rapidly growing population. As these individuals age and they become to sexual reproducing ages, they will tend to have more and more babies, causing this to grow. Then you have slow growth like the United States. Alright. We have zero population growth, where it tends to be straight up and down. Examples like Spain, Austria, Greece. And then where you have negative growth rate like Germany, Bulgaria, and Sweden. Pyramid tends to look like a V. Now, populations are really interesting, and especially when we get into Chapter 9, Problems with Overpopulation. But it's such a difficult topic because you have so many different areas and topics that cause populations to increase and decrease. And this picture I thought was a good example of all the different areas that affect populations: cultural, biotic, technology, all these different things that affect population growth around the world.